A dream within a dream is how artist Dorian Vallejo best describes his artwork, which is being displayed here at Siona Fine Art Gallery in the Village at Gulfstream Park. Dorian, I'd like to start at the beginning with you.
Okay.
Take us back to when it all began, when you first realized art is the passion you desired and something you wanted to pursue. How did that come about?
Gosh, if you want to take it back to the beginning, my earliest memory actually is of drawing with my father before I could even stand up. So my father is also an artist, and I would sit at his feet, and he left paper and tracing paper and comic books and that kind of thing. And so while he painted for hours and hours and hours, I would just sit on the floor right by his leg, curled up sort of like a kitten, right by him. And he's a big guy, kind of lifted weights, and he still does and still paints as well. And but I was such a little guy, and I just curl up by his leg and just make little drawings. And that's really very much the beginning of. So by the time I even considered that I would be making a choice, doing what I was already so involved with drawing and painting that it was pretty clear what I was going to do. The concept of a dream within a dream is that dream, the thing that we aspire to do, is really connected to that inner part of us, the unconscious part of us that has dreams and wishes, and the only way we can get that out is to get in touch with that. So the majority of what I'm doing here has something to do with that.
So what inspires you then?
Life itself. And I would say this kind of positive exchange of looking at life as it could be and what we dream to do and aspire to do, and saying it ought to be like that, and having the courage and inspiration to step past our fears that are really illusions of our own making.
Explain to us a little bit about the pieces that we have in Siona Fine Art.
I like to do a variety of artwork. All of it kind of comes under the umbrella of what we've been discussing, which is, it's actually, the majority of all the work is all with a positive appreciation of the feminine. And it's through the feminine that life comes into being. And we call it Mother Earth, and obviously mothers give birth. And so all the work is really involved in that kind of thing. The representation of beauty is a symbolic metaphor for heroism that we've been speaking about, that to use that aspect of us that can be heroic to go in forth of our dreams. All the work here, from the drawings to the paintings, come under that umbrella. I like to experiment and try different things, and so it's not kind of rigid. There's no rules that I'm like really attached to. The paintings are primarily oil paintings, and the drawings span a range of media, from pencil drawings to pen and ink to mixed media, where I'm using all different kinds of materials, and sometimes I'll put paint on them. Sometimes it's oil paint, sometimes it's acrylic paint, sometimes it's gouache or watercolor, or tea or coffee, or anything that I could use to really to get an effect with the work.
Very nice. And so how many pieces are displayed in this exhibit?
I want to say that there are 17 pieces and about 25 drawings.
And where are you based?
I am originally from New York, and I'm now in Pennsylvania.
So what brought you to South Florida? How did you get involved with Siona Fine Art?
In one way or another, Tim and I have known each other for a long time. Tim had contacted me to have a show here, and as we were talking, it became clear that we actually knew each other as far back as our early teens. Later, we actually went to the same art school together, and we were in the same classes together. Although we sat next to each other and drew and painted and did assignments together, and he has stories of that nature, it wasn't until he was actually involved in galleries and was looking around for somebody that he would like to represent, and that he contacted me, and I immediately liked him. And then as we spoke more, I was like, oh my God, I've known this guy my whole life.
What's your impression of the artwork displayed here and Siona Fine Art?
Honestly, I think Tim has done just a wonderful job. First of all, the work looks great the way he hung it, but just to be in the company of other artists that I really respect and admire. There are very few galleries that have the courage to kind of narrow the focus, and Tim is really one of these directors that chooses the work that he really likes, and it all has a very consistent type of feel to it. Kind of veers a little bit this way or that way, but it's something very different, I think, for the South Florida area, which is primarily bright colors and abstract kind of painting, and this gallery, something new and a bit different for it. It's representational and primarily realistic. So I'm happy to be here, very, very happy. The original plan that I had for this show was 20 pieces and 100 drawings. That's kind of unusual. Most shows have anywhere from 8 paintings to 16, 17 paintings, and I have 17 paintings, and so most people don't overlap paintings or drawings. But as I said, as we were speaking earlier, I love drawing. I absolutely love drawing, and so and Tim's very supportive of what I'm doing with the drawings, and we decided not to put 100 drawings in the show, but to kind of limit it and give people a feel for, a taste of really what I'm doing.
We're looking at one piece in particular. If you can describe, what inspired you to draw this, and how you define your art.
So this particular piece is a good example of what we were talking about, in the sense that she, in sleeping, is waking, and she's waking into the dream. And the water is commonly used as a symbol of feminism. It's also, not feminism, but the feminine. It's also a symbol of the unconscious. So in a lot of the work, I'm playing off this double meaning of different types of things. So the circular type of movement for the water that circles around her, and the circular kind of thing that she's like on, represents, in a sense, the covenant that we have with life, and the ring would be like the covenant that you would have in a marriage, in a relationship. There's something inside us that, like the mythological thread, that can lead us out of the labyrinth. There's this little part of us that seems so fragile and insignificant, like the butterfly, or like the birds in some of my other paintings, or like any number of symbols. It's so fragile, and it can rise above that, and it's that natural, that relationship to nature and the natural part of us that, if we can trust, will lead us and guide us.
I'm here with art and gallery director Tim Smith. Tim, if you can tell us, what is it like to have artist Dorian Vallejo here exhibiting his artwork at Siona Fine Art?
It is amazing for a number of reasons, because Dorian and I have a little bit of a history where we kind of crossed paths through the years, starting from 1985, when I ran into him and his parents at a museum. Then fast forward a few years later, but Dorian and I were both very dedicated art students. We were art geeks, so all we did was paint and draw, and just had a few passing comments. So that was about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. Past that point, so I called him up and I said, I just opened up a gallery, are you up for doing a show in Florida? And that's how this all came about.
Have you experienced a lot of positive feedback? What do you think of the opening of his exhibit?
So it's not just the craft that they have, it's just the personality that comes through. Yeah, it's like, you would never look at Dorian's and say, I think that reminds me of this artist or that artist. You look at Dorian and you go, that's very specific to this artist. And most of the artists here are exactly like that. Their personalities come through. It's not the fact that they learn their craft and their skills. On top of that, they've allowed their personalities to come through. I always say that the artwork has to speak to each other. So even in laying out the show, I spent yesterday and most of last night laying the show out. I moved it all around the gallery so many times I can't even tell you, because I have walls that move too. So I was moving the walls around, moving the artwork around. The work has to speak to each other. Done, but it seemed to be part of a different presentation.
What else is upcoming in the gallery? What else can we look forward to?
I have an artist named Brian Stevens, who was at our opening, who you met, very tall, good-looking guy, and he's working on that show right now.
His focus on the feminine brings life into existence here at the Siona Fine Art Gallery. Artist Dorian Vallejo shares his dream within a dream.